My Hero Academia, Chapter 223, A Cockroach. So, yep, another fire chapter coming from Horikoshi this week. I have just been loving this arc so much. It just progressively keeps getting better and better with each chapter, and this one was certainly no exception. And it really does seem like at this point, this is going to be a full-blown League of Villains arc. And like I've been saying these past 5 or 6 weeks, I'm on board with it, and I really hope that turns out to be the case. But there was a lot that happened in this chapter, so let's get into it. So one of the worries that I had coming into this chapter was that Horikoshi might have been skipping over the Gigantomachia fight, based off of the 223 spoilers at least, and the ending of the last chapter. But no, we totally see it, and I'm so glad that we do, because it's one of the things I was looking forward to the most. And it's pretty much as I expected, or I should say we all expected. Gigantomachia is just slapping these dudes around, no problem. He is rather powerful, definitely one of the most powerful villains we have ever seen in the series up until this point. He seems to have strength similar to that of All Might. I mean, not Prime All Might, of course, but like the All Might that we see at the beginning of the series. And I think that's a fair assumption, because in the fight, we see Gigantomachia open his hand really fast, and it's strong enough to blow away the villains, like cause like an air blast or shockwave or whatever. And they don't really say what is happening in this sequence, but we can just kind of assume that this is similar to Izuku's Delaware Smash, you know, the air blast that he does with his fingers, except just one flick. This is like all 5 fingers opening, and it's causing like this catastrophic blast of air, I guess, which is showing us that, damn, man, he's pretty damn strong. Like I said, comparable to that of All Might at the beginning of the series. I mean, for all we know, he might even be stronger than the nerfed All Might, but, you know, we'll find out soon. And it's also revealed that the League has been fighting Gigantomachia for a month and a half straight, and I didn't know that this was necessarily the case here. I mean, of course, we knew that they were fighting them based off of the flashback and whatnot, and I thought maybe they would just got whooped and then left and tried to come back later or something, but no. The whole entire time, they have just been in this ongoing fight. Like, all of the stuff that happened with Dabi and High End and Endeavor, while that was all happening, they were still fighting Gigantomachia on this damn island. And apparently, to the present day, it is still happening, and they still have not been able to tame him. But on top of that, we're also finding out more or less what Gigantomachia's quirk is. So, based off of the rough translations from the earlier chapters in this arc, it was implied that he had multiple quirks, but it was later revealed in the official translation that he doesn't. He just has one quirk. And it appears to be superhuman, I guess, because they refer to him as superhuman in this chapter, and they also give us insights into what some of his abilities are. So, of course, we know he has super crazy strength that's already been shown, but he also has increased senses of like hearing and smelling, and apparently his body grows larger when he's fighting, and his senses are so keen that he can even counter if he's being attacked in his sleep. And speaking of sleep, he only needs a 3-hour nap after fighting for like 48 hours straight. So yeah, I guess this just means Gigantomachia is somewhat of a superhuman. Like, he just has the enhanced abilities of what a human would, aside from like mental acuity, because it seems like he doesn't really have an enhanced aspect of that. And as for like his aesthetic and the way he looks, I don't know why he does. It was also implied that he wasn't experimented on by the doctor, so I guess this is just how he was born. Like, he's just kind of like heteromorphic in his appearance, but it doesn't really aid to his quirk, I guess. You know, kind of like the other heteromorphics that we've seen in the series, like Tokoyami. Like, he just looks like a raven or a bird, whatever the hell he is, but it doesn't really have anything to do with his Dark Shadow quirk. I also like the fact that he's specifically targeting Tomura because he wants to be the successor to All for One. So that means like all of the other villains are taking shifts in between fighting and whatnot because they have to rest and stuff. And it is also said that Tomura didn't really get much rest throughout this month and a half of fighting. So I guess this is also showing us that the League is also getting some training here. For like a month and a half, they've been fighting a super powerful villain, and I guess they're gaining strength from this and experience and skill, because Tomura also goes on to say that, yeah, his movements have gotten much slower. So either Gigantomachia is regressing or they are becoming stronger. And I think it's the latter here because they are going into a war after this, or at least it's implied that they are. So a nice little power-up boost that they're getting is certainly going to help them in the battle that they're going to get into after this. And speaking of taking shifts, this information is relayed to us by Toga, who's getting like some little cute moments in this chapter, some minor character progression, because we see that she's wearing what she calls an A-line coat, and this is pretty much just a wardrobe change for her. Pretty much everyone is getting a wardrobe change because of winter. I mean, we saw in the joint training arc that the heroes are getting it, so it's cool to see that the villains are getting it as well. But also we're seeing like her and Spinner just, sidebar talking, and Spinner brings up a good point. He's like, didn't you join the League because you love Stain or something? It's like they're not really following his ideologies, so like why are you still here? And she gives kind of like a nonchalant, non-answer. She's like, I love Stain, I love Deku, I love Ochako, I just want to be happy as long as I can keep falling in love a lot. And I honestly think that, that's partly true. I suppose she is a little psychotic in that way. But also, she's kind of found refuge in the League. Like, it's someplace that she belongs. Like, she's belonging to something much bigger than her. And this is similar to why Spinner is still in the League, too. Like, yeah, they're not really following Stain's ideologies anymore, which is what he's all about. But he's found some place to call his home. He's a part of a team. And he's kind of always been on the outside looking in society for the most part, because it's been revealed that he's been ridiculed pretty much most of his life for being the heteromorphic type of human that he is. So they've found refuge, like I said, in the League, like where people that are odd and bizarre and crazy like them are kind of common amongst all of these people because they all have that in common, more or less. So then the Liberation Army calls the League and they reveal that they have Giran and that they've put his fingers and different items that he has in the various locations that they've been to throughout the series. So we see the finger at Hosu, we see one on the highway. This is the place where they abducted Chisake and stole the quirk stuff from him and took his arms off. Then we see another finger at Kamino, which is now called Ground Zero. This is like the battle site between All Might and All For One. And it's pretty cool because we're seeing a monument of All Might here, in his trademark classic stance with his left arm raised. This is after he defeated All For One. And I don't think we saw this before. I could be wrong. I don't remember off the top of my head if they put that monument up, or that memorial monument up, immediately after it was over, but still cool nonetheless, because if anyone deserves a monument and a memorial, it is certainly All Might. Come on, he's the man, and if this incident in humanity required it as well, it was this, because this was like pretty much the make or break thing. It was the ultimate good versus the ultimate evil. You see like all of the ground that this is covering, and it's just all flat ground because them fighting like wiped away a portion of Kamino. Like that's how powerful they were, still in their nerfed states. So also we're seeing the finger at Fukuoka. This is the place where Endeavor fought High End. And of course the last finger was in front of the 8 Precepts of Death base, or whatever you want to call it. And this is all pretty cool how it comes together. Not cool because they cut Giran's fingers off. I'm not on board with that. Giran's my boy. But just the whole picture that they're trying to create with the fingers, because we see later on the panel of them coming together, and it's creating like the Liberation's hand salute that they do, like the L placed on their forehead, just like the song All Star by Smash Mouth, that iconic line. We're also getting the name of the Joker dude, who is now confirmed to be the supreme leader of the Special Abilities Liberation Army. And apparently he is Re-Destro. And I guess this is because he just respects Destro so much that he just can't straight up take his moniker. He needs to put like Re-Destro in front of it. And that's pretty cool. But we're also getting like his real name, as well as the real name of the other Liberation Army generals, I guess you can call them, that we saw in Chapter 218 when they were all sitting around that table. So I originally assumed that they were like all related. Like I thought they were all going to be the children of Destro, and that they were all going to be working for the Detnerat Company as well. But that's totally not the case. They are all their own individual people with their own individual companies that they appear to be the leaders of or have extremely high-ranking positions in. So now let's get into these guys because they're pretty damn fascinating. So the first one, we've got Shikazoku Tomoyasu, and this is the one with the bangs covering his eyes, or at least I assume it's a dude. So apparently he's the company director of a major IT company by the name of Feel Good Inc. And if that sounds familiar, that's because Feel Good Inc. is one of the hit songs from the great band The Gorillaz, one of my favorite bands of all time. And this is definitely like a little homage Easter egg that Horikoshi is paying to The Gorillaz here because, like I said, Feel Good Inc. is one of their biggest songs. But behind Tomoyasu, we see like this pseudo gorilla looking dude. Like, I guess he's a heteromorphic type of person. So that's just showing us like, yeah, he's a gorilla. Feel Good Inc. is a song by the Gorillaz. And also Tomoyasu himself kind of looks like Noodle, the band member from the Gorillaz. Like, they both have bangs covering their eyes. So this is pretty cool. It's, you know, it's fun to see that Horikoshi likes the Gorillaz because I love them myself, and I certainly hope you do too. They're a great band. So the next one is Hanadata Koku, and this one was like the most vocal of them so far. We saw him like directly talking to Destro in chapter 218. And this guy is the Shinkyu party leader, whatever that is. I guess it's some kind of like union possibly, maybe like some kind of political affiliation. And then next to him, we've got Kizuki Chitose, and she is the executive director for a very popular publishing company. I don't even want to say their name, but you know who they are if you've read the chapter. And apparently they are the company that is publishing the Special Abilities Liberation Front book. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would because, you know, Horikoshi isn't the only one subtly throwing shade at this company. I mean, Togashi, the creator of Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho, has done this in the past as well. I don't know if it's like fully malicious here, but I really wouldn't be surprised if it was. Yeah, because, you know, that company doesn't really have the greatest reputation. Allegedly, I'll say. And then, of course, we're getting the name of Destro, who is Yotsubashi Rikiya. So, yes, this guy is, I guess, the son of Destro or the grandson of Destro, one of them, because Yotsubashi Chikara is the name of Destro himself. So this guy, Destro Rikiya, he is definitely a descendant of Destro in some way. And, you know, as we already found out, he is the chief executive officer of the Detnerat Company. So now we have 4 of the 5 main members of the Liberation Army revealed at this point. We only have one left, and that is like the one that had their head down with like the hoodie. We saw them at the table, you know, in chapter 218 with the rest of them. We're actually getting a panel of this character in the bottom right of this reveal of all of their names and whatnot. We just see like their face, which is blacked out with the hoodie around them. So maybe this is like an important character. I mean, I guess it has to be since they're Horikoshi's waiting to reveal this character, and they were also at the table, so they are probably very significant. We're also finding out that they have 116 or over 116,000 soldiers hidden throughout society to strike at any moment. So yes, this seems like super oppressive and dangerous, but I'm assuming that this is like all just normal people, just fodder, at least for the most part. I mean, some of them are probably super dangerous, but 116,000, this kind of reminds me of like Fishman Island in the One Piece arc when it was like, we got 50,000 dudes, and then they all just got one-pieced by Luffy's Conqueror Haki. So, you know, I'm not too worried about this, but there is going to be a lot of fodder going after the League, I suppose, especially if they do go to the city and fight them. I mean, they're going to have plenty of dudes. So yeah, let's get into that, because at the end of this chapter, Destro is straight up challenging the League to like a war in a way. I mean, I don't know how big of it can be because, you know, the League is very limited, and it seems like the Liberation Army is way bigger than them, but maybe the League is going to recruit some people. But regardless, another little fun thing that we get in here is like the Liberation Army is kind of forcing them to fight them, because it's like, look, if you don't, we're just going to send the heroes after you. And then they specifically name Hawks, Endeavor, Edgeshot, Mirko, and Crust. So that's a little fun thing, because we really haven't seen Crust in action yet. But the fact that they're naming Crust here means that he's probably pretty powerful. I mean, aside just from him being a top 10 hero, but also we might see Crust in this arc. because they're name dropping him, so I guess it's a possibility. That would be pretty cool. Very interested in Crust. I'm really interested in all of the top 10 heroes that we haven't seen yet, because why not? But aside from that, we're getting the motivation of why the Liberation Army is going after the League in the first place. And it's apparently because they've become too popular. And that they're kind of the face of a revolution in a way for like people with quirks and whatnot. And they don't like that. They want to be the face of it. They want to be the people fully in control of this quote-unquote revolution and whatnot. So they're trying to take the League of Villains out of the picture, which it makes sense. It's kind of cool. I mean, they could just try to team up with them in some way rather than just completely destroy them. But hey, they have their own motivations and they want to do things the way they do. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the chapter, but I am really looking forward to this war, and I'm thinking it might be like the League of Villains with like a couple Nomus going against the Liberation Army, because the Nomus have already been set up. Like, we know that they're out there. We know that there are multiple high ends, and they're just waiting to be used, so I assume that this is like the perfect situation for them. Also, the prospect of Gigantomachia potentially joining the heroes eventually to take on the Liberation Army. There's just so many amazing options for this war, and I just can't wait to see what Horikoshi is going to do with it. And yeah, so that's it. If you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. And let me know what you think about all this in the comments. I'm so excited! I hope you are too. And I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a Discord and a Q&A video that I do on this channel every week. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.